been investigating the hustle culture crime scene. And honestly, the evidence is clear. Your 60-hour work week, it's the primary reason you're actually falling behind. You see, for years, I've watched you, and honestly, I've been there too, treating burnout like some kind of shiny trophy. We've been led to believe that if we just push a little harder, answer one more email at 11 p.m., or sacrifice just one more weekend, we'll finally crack the code to that next promotion or that 7-figure milestone, right? But as I look closer at the data, the forensic evidence tells a completely different story. Matter of fact, look, your brain isn't some machine that runs on constant high-octane pressure. It's a biological system, and it has a very real breaking point. When I analyze the habits of top-tier executives and world-class creators, I don't see them grinding until they're hollow. Instead, I find a deliberate, almost clinical commitment to something we've been taught to fear. You know, total, unapologetic rest. Pointed, that 60-hour week you're so proud of, directly, it's not your ladder to the top. Gravely, it's actually the weapon that's dulling your edge, slowing your cognitive processing, and straight up killing your creativity. I'm opening the case file today on why your current work ethic is actually a massive liability. Whispering, because here's the most shocking piece of evidence I've uncovered. While you're burning the midnight oil just to stay afloat, the most successful women in the world are actually outperforming you, simply because they've mastered the art of working while they sleep. And by the time I'm done with this investigation, I'll show you exactly how they do it. Let's profile our victim. Your daily productivity. You see, if I were to look at your calendar right now, I wouldn't just see a schedule. I'd see a series of tactical errors. I've spent years analyzing the high-performance crime scene, and the first thing I notice is a glaring logic error that almost every professional woman I know is guilty of. You subscribe to the most dangerous myth in the corporate world. The idea that powering through is a virtue, right? In my investigation, I found that you treat your brain like a machine that just needs more fuel, when in reality, it's a biological system that requires constant recalibration. When you decide to skip that lunch break or push through a mounting headache just to finish a deck, well, you aren't being a hero. You're actually committing a slow-motion heist against your own potential. What's the motive behind this self-sabotage? I mean, I've traced it back to a single recurring source: the fear of falling behind. I see it in the way you keep your Slack notifications on during dinner, and how you check your emails before you've even had your first sip of coffee. You're terrified that if you stop moving, the momentum will die, and someone, a colleague, a competitor, or even a younger version of yourself will take your place. But here's where the evidence gets damning. Because of this fear, you're leaving clues of mediocrity all over your work. I call this cognitive residue. I'm talking about that 4 p.m. brain fog that hits you like a wall. I know that feeling all too well, where even the simplest email feels like you're trying to move a mountain with a plastic spoon. You read the same sentence 5 times, and it still doesn't register. You're physically present, but your mental processing speed has dropped to a crawl. This isn't just being tired. I mean, this is a logic error in your operating system. You think you're working hard, but I'm looking at the data, and it shows you're just performing the act of working, while your actual output is plummeting. You're trading your high-level strategy for low-level busy work, and the cost, quite frankly, is your sanity. However, as I've dug deeper into the files of the world's most elite performers, I've discovered that they don't just avoid this spiral. They use a completely different psychological map. They've realized that the secret to finishing the race first isn't running until you collapse. It's knowing exactly when to step off the track. And the method they use to stay sharp while everyone else is dulling their edges? Well, it's something I call the recovery paradox. It's a technique so counterintuitive, it feels like a cheat code for the human brain. And once you see how it works, you'll realize you've been looking at the crime scene from the wrong angle entirely. Let's look at the evidence under the microscope, shall we? You see, the biggest mistake I find when analyzing the habits of struggling professionals is a fundamental misunderstanding of the human brain. I mean, you've likely been told that your mind is a machine, something you can just keep running as long as you provide enough caffeine or willpower. But the data? Well, it tells a different story. Your brain is actually a high-performance battery, and when you ignore its charge, you fall straight into what we call in psychology the cognitive deceleration trap. I see this trap everywhere. It's the smoking gun in the case of the burnt-out executive. When you decide to cut sleep to squeeze in more work, you aren't actually increasing your output, right? You're simply creating junk hours. Think of junk hours as the forensic evidence of a declining mind. These are those low-quality work periods where your decision-making is sluggish, and your creativity is so degraded that you're essentially running in place. I've watched people spend 3 grueling hours trying to finish a task that a well-rested version of them, could have solved in 45 minutes. You think you're being productive, but you're actually paying a massive fatigue tax on every single minute you work. This is where the high performers pull ahead. They don't sleep more because their work is done. Actually, they sleep more specifically so they can finish the job faster and with more precision than you ever could. They've realized that a sharp mind is a lethal weapon, and a dull one, well, it's just a liability. But that's not even the most unsettling part of this investigation. While we've identified the trap, we haven't looked at the actual biological glitch that happens inside your neural pathways when you hit that wall. There is a specific chemical shift that occurs when you push past your limit. One that doesn't just make you tired. It actually starts to rewrite your perception of how well you're performing. And once I show you how this internal gaslighting works, you'll realize you've been lying to yourself about your own productivity for years. Now that I've shown you how your own brain has been gaslighting you, actually tricking you into thinking you're productive when you're really just spinning your wheels, it's time to look at the evidence-based solution. I call this the recovery protocol. If we're going to solve this case and get your performance back to peak levels, I need you to follow these 4 steps with the absolute precision of a forensic investigator. Step 1 is what I call the junk hour audit. Think of your energy as a finite resource, like a crime scene budget. I want you to start tracking the exact time of day your brain goes fuzzy. That moment where you're staring at the screen, rereading the same sentence 5 times. And your focus? Well, it feels like it's dissolving into static. In my analysis of high performers, I found that pushing through these junk hours is a massive tactical error. You're not being tough. You're actually just being inefficient. Those hours are literally costing you money and mental capital because the work you produce is subpar. When the fuzz sets in, I want you to stop working immediately. Close the laptop. The audit is about recognizing that your low power mode is a liability, not an asset. Step 2 is to implement the 90-minute sprint. You see, our brains operate on ultradian rhythms, those biological cycles that dictate our ability to focus. To master this, I want you to work in high-intensity bursts for 90 minutes, followed by 20 minutes of zero input rest. And I need to be very clear on this. Zero input means no scrolling through Instagram, no checking emails, and no podcasts. I'm asking you to give your brain a total sensory break so it can reset its dopamine baseline. If you don't take the rest, the next sprint won't be a sprint. It'll be a crawl. Step 3 is the 8-hour non-negotiable. We need to change your relationship with the clock, right? I want you to stop looking at sleep as time off and start reclassifying it as a deep work task in your calendar. If I were to look at your schedule right now, sleep should be treated with the same level of respect as a high-stakes board meeting.
It is the only time your brain's glymphatic system can literally wash away the metabolic waste from your day. If you skip this, you're trying to build a career on a foundation of neural trash. 8 hours is the professional standard. Finally, step 4, the digital sunset. If I checked your cortisol levels right now, they'd likely reveal a massive spike every time your phone pings after 8 p.m. That spike is sabotaging your recovery before it even starts. To fix this, you must kill all work notifications exactly 2 hours before bed. This isn't just about relaxing. It's about signaling to your nervous system that the hunt is over. Without a digital sunset, your brain stays in a state of hypervigilance, making deep, restorative sleep impossible. But as I've looked deeper into these patterns, I've noticed a disturbing trend. Even when people have the perfect protocol, there's a specific psychological tripwire that causes them to self-sabotage and return to their old, exhausted habits. It's a hidden fear that most high achievers refuse to admit they have, even to themselves. And until you understand what this fear is doing to your subconscious, well, all the sleep in the world won't be enough to save your career.
That fear I mentioned? You see, it's the deep-seated belief that your worth is actually tied to your exhaustion. We've been conditioned to think that a burnt-out brain is a badge of honor, right? But as we've seen in this investigation, that's not just a lie. It's a performance killer. It is the ultimate psychological trap, you see, designed to keep you running on a treadmill that leads absolutely nowhere. The verdict is in, and the case is officially closed. Intense? My analysis shows that the high performer's secret isn't how much they can endure. It's how effectively they can recover. I mean, I've looked at the data, and the high-stakes reality is that your junk hours, those late nights where you're just staring at a screen but achieving nothing, are costing you your edge and your mental clarity. So I challenge you to stop seeing rest as a luxury and start seeing it as a high-stakes business strategy. Firmly, it's actually the most aggressive, tactical move you can make for your career and your sanity. This is your official invitation to join the Rest Rebellion. If you're ready to stop the junk hours and finally reclaim your edge, hit subscribe to Power of Mindset and join our unit of high-performance investigators. We don't just work harder here, you know? We work smarter by decoding the hidden psychology of success. You have the evidence now. The question is, are you brave enough to act on it? I'll see you in the next analysis.